Yeah, look who's back. Rumors of my having been scooped up by the black Suburbans was greatly exaggerated. In fact, my absence was more mundane than that. I spent the last couple of months fighting back to get out from under a black cloud of despair over the sorry predicament we're in. I've been deep inside what the mystics would call the dark night of the soul, and what one of my most favorite authors, Robert Anton Wilson, would call chapel perilous. I've emerged intact, and I'm re-energized for the next movement in this dance macabre. I'm not the same guy anymore. I've changed, and in that time, the ground truth of this struggle has also transited across another very important phase line. We're not in Kansas anymore. It's October 2nd, 2012, and this is the month when the fascists will probably make their first move against us. Some kind of false flag which is going to be blamed on the American resistance. The Army now has a nifty little card for leaders to use in deciding if their troops are becoming radicalized. Saw this on InfoWars today and downloaded it. Check out the link in the video description so you can download it too. It's from those Army military spooks who share billeting with the NSA at Fort Meade, the Asymmetrical Warfare Group. So the witch hunt is on within the ranks of the military just in time for the false flag to smear all of us freedom lovers in America who will not knuckle under to the tyranny these lunatics are continually unleashing on all fronts. All I can say to that is, well, good luck with that, douchebags. You're in for a rude awakening. Okay, I'm going to officially announce it now, since the lemmings still think everything is okay, and it's football season again, so nobody is talking about anything now but their fucking idiotic teams. We're in Phase 2 of the resistance now. Phase 2 is the active phase. Remember, active in military speak means war. We've just crossed into the guerrilla war phase right now. I've marked this line in the sand before, and I will remind you of it again here. I use the quote from JFK to distinctly point out where and how this transition occurs. Those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. So tell me how peaceful revolution is still a possibility now. They've slammed the door shut at every corner. Protesters of any stripe now are being attacked by squads of Darth Vader cops whenever and wherever they dare gather. These fucking thugs are now shotgunning babies in baby carriages at point-blank range with rubber bullets. These fucking cops sneer that we, shouldn't bring babies to protest. Yeah, I agree with that. We should be bringing clubs and pitchforks now. The absolute final proof of what I say just happened in Tampa not long ago. These fascists made double damn sure that ilk like Ron Paul will never see a chance in hell of getting into the Oval Office and set back their plans by decades. When are you people going to wake up to the fact that there is no solution in politics? Politics is rigged against the outsiders. The deck has always been stacked in the favor of the status quo, not the revolutionaries. It is like that wheel for gerbils, you run and you run, and you expend all your energy to go exactly nowhere, but fast. It is a fast-moving and flashy little ride, always exciting, but you always get off the wheel where you just got on, exactly at the intersection of shit out of luck and up shit creek without a paddle, while the enemy agenda continues to move forward relentlessly and unfettered. Let me clue you in on something, okay? Freedom and liberty are functions of voluntary economics and not politics. In order to experience real liberty, something must first be removed from the equation. We got any whiz kids out there that can blurt out the identity of that something? Anyone? Bueller? Bueller? Well, let me clue you in again. It's that legal fiction you all think is real. That phantasm called the state. That is the central rotten core which needs to be raised up as the single unifying issue of this movement. The state is the construct which stands in the way of our liberty. It always has been since day one of civilization. The New World Order is nothing more than an attempt to establish the first global superstate. They want to do away with the nation states and replace them all under one giant planetary-wide engine of oppression. That's all the New World Order is, just a bigger state. The only way out is in tearing the state down now, for once and for all. Alright? I have something important for you to consider. Okay? It's a lengthy outtake, about 23 minutes, from the Alex Jones Show, aired on 29 August 2012. I part it down as compact as I can You need to listen to every moment of this. This is your warning order. This information has red alert priority, especially now that we are in the month of October, the month that they're scheduling to move against us.
This operation. Well, what is this operation? It's as according to my source, it could be one of perhaps three areas. One could be an operation, something that will elicit sympathy and empathy for the president himself, and will depict the white guys with guns, with Bibles, conservative, pro-life, pro-constitution, as the aggressors. That's what we're looking at as perhaps the most likely scenario.
And I'll tell you what's shocking about this. We're going to break. Come back. We'll get into full detail with our guest and what his source is saying the intel is allegedly. And again, we're reporting this because we've seen from behind the scenes saying the white Al-Qaeda, the evil white guys are going to attack and they're the new enemy, to now the full rollout in TV, in fiction, in nonfiction, in news. They're setting it up. That's admitted. Look, Steve, here's the deal. I know you're a smart guy. You have a lot of sources because you've been around forever. I'm not denying that you believe this. You talked about Russian troops secretly training. Now that's admitted. Bizarre. We're in the land of bizarre. The government shipping guns into Mexico to destabilize things and blame the Second Amendment, a false flag. But we see Soros and others trying to overthrow Putin. We see that destabilization campaign. I know the globalists are running the Chinese government, but the Russians, from my evidence, there's some type of split. I know that they fight with each other, and I know the globalists like to balance countries against each other. But I know the U.S. troops are not being led into these secret Russian bases, their NORAD equivalent. So what is going on? I mean, you're now saying you think that, I know they say in NLE 09 that they would use foreign troops in America. I know they say they're doing anti-terror drills with the Russians. I mean, how would they trigger this? How would they get away with it? I mean, I could see our military under foreign command or mercenaries mixed in with foreigners, but and we've seen the drills for that, but how would they get away with Russian troops? I mean, that's what you're saying, your source? Because, that would unify Americans, Russian troops.
Well, unfortunately, it won't, because the bottom line is that even our military, most of the good guys have either been outed or assassinated. Here's the thing, Alex, and this is something that most people don't understand. Even though there seems to be a consensus amongst the Western European, U.S., and some of the Asian and Middle Eastern countries, Russia and China a number of years ago got together and signed a secret accord. And for the record, 1 year before that meeting took place, a guy by the name of Dmitry Duduman, you've probably read of his prophecies, D-U-D-U-M-A-N, saw the meeting, and they basically had, and this isn't word for word, but overview. This will answer your question specifically. They were aware and they were going to play along with the Americans on their New World Order until the chance came where they could take us out, take us down, and the United States has already been divided up between the Russians and the Chinese. Henry Groover, A.A. Allen, I posted these on my website, Dreams and Visions. I mean, we're talking visions of Russians and Chinese invading the United States from 60 years ago. And so now the thing is, and Stanislav Lunev, Viktor Suvorov, all the different defectors have written books. The number one thing they said, they would be able to succeed because their friends in the government would allow them to pre-position their men and materials ahead of the takeover. Now, let me make this clear to everybody in the military, even those who are side by side. Some friends of mine in a southern state, I won't give the state away, Vietnam vets. God bless every veteran out there, Vietnam, every war vet out there. I want to thank you guys. One of them spoke Russian, and they saw a joint tactical exercise taking place. And fortunately for their skills learned in the jungle, they were able to track the Russians. When the American counterparts, which I think were out of Fort Bragg, left, they overheard the the Russians in Russian stating, these Americans, once we have put down their enemies, we put them down. And they were laughing, giving each other high fives and shaking their heads, saying that the very people they're training with, they're going to turn their weapons on them. Now, Alex, that's from eyewitnesses who speak Russian, having heard it. And
well, Larry Grafwald, who was in the top weatherman meetings with the big union chiefs, they said, we're going to bring in Chinese and Russians once we've taken over. And it all sounds so crazy, but then they're drilling in anti-terror with the Russians. And so it's basically the foreign bankers may do a double take and a triple cross, you're saying, and then do this. But there's a problem. As Admiral Yamamoto said, there would be a rifle behind every blade of grass. No one I know would put up with foreign troops.
Well, they're putting up with them, Alex. We're putting up with them. The point is that, let me share this with you. If you go back and do a little history on Spetsnaz, when I first started writing my book, real quick, the 60-second version, Breathe No Evil and Blueprint for Survival, I was really into the Soviet defense policies. Obviously, I was before, good night, Alexander Lebed was murdered. He was taken down. He's the one that came and testified to the Weldon Committee. I was in a week away from interviewing him, okay? General Lebed was basically the national security advisor for Boris Yeltsin. To make a long story short, the night he got killed, I said on George Norrie Coast to Coast, I said it was either George or Art that he was murdered. Well, his brother came out a week later. But understanding Russian defense policy and civil war was my forte and my take. I was friends with someone whose business partner was the sister of one of the highest ranking members of the KGB. As a matter of fact, the man that ran it before he died. So the point I'm trying to make in this is they're already here. What can Americans do right now? We've seen the prepositioning and the strategic placement of military arms and armament. We've seen A-10s. We're seeing helicopter gunships in downtown. And see, Alex, you can put up the videos on Infowars.com, and I can put them up and link to your stuff, but people don't get it. Why are they practicing urban warfare in the cities of America? And the bottom line is, it's you, it's me, it's the Americans that are in their targets. And the point is that when Graithwald said that years ago on the Weather Underground, now the number of people they're talking about taking out on the red list is 50 to 75 million people. And in those days, Alex, there's one thing to say, well, there's 300 million Americans or 300 million guns in America, blah, blah, blah. But the drones and the total information awareness and the constant surveillance and the license plate readers and all that stuff.
By the way, here's the new purchases just in the last few days on top of the $1.4 billion. The U.S. Forest Service is asking for another 85,000 rounds of 40 caliber, 150,000 rounds of 223, 10,000 cartridges of 12 gauge, 10,000 of other types of 12 gauge, 9 millimeter, 45, 38. And again, there's so many thousands of pages of these, I can't even read all the stuff they're getting. I mean, that's just reading one of them. It's just pouring out the weapon systems to be used against us. No one can deny that.
Well, right. And here's something coming in while we're on the air. Someone's listening to us. He says he's talked to the government contractor for 30 years. This is just in right now. And they are ordering much more than what is publicly on the Fed BizOps website. Everything has been told to be kept under wraps now, like the 3/4 of a ton of C4. Gee, Alex, you remember when Oklahoma blew up? You and I were screaming our lungs out, not together, but independently on our different shows. And then, together, we got together on a couple shows. And obviously 9/11 too. So 3/4 of a ton of C4, and you're talking about a false flag.
Yeah, let me stop you guys. Type in, I forgot to cover that yesterday. The TSA just ordered massive amounts of C4. It is unbelievable. We're going to be covering that tonight. Guys, type in TSA orders C4, and they claim it's for training. You need a thimble amount to train dogs. You don't need giant, containers of it.
Alex, here's what I want people to understand. You have to have the mentality now. You are under an occupation by foreign troops, and the enemy is you. The enemy is me. Look, I don't get a predator over me at 100 feet because, they want to show me their newest technology. That's telling me a message. When Greg, I got to tell you something. This is really critical. If I could say nothing more, this should tell everyone. I had a lieutenant colonel in my office 2 years ago in Montana from Northcom. He was in the psychological operations. He was a a Christian, Alex, and he came with tears in his eyes, and he said, Steve, he said, I want to share something with you. I'm scared for where we're heading. He said, when you, and he mentioned you, Alex, and he said, the guys that have warned and warned, we assign cyber warriors to go out and undermine, to place they do everything in their power. But then he said something that startled me, Alex. He said, Steve, I've seen the plans for the U.S. Air Force to bomb, and here's his words, carpet bomb, 5 states specifically, Kentucky, Texas, Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama. I said, why those states? He said, those are the states that they feel they'll have the most trouble with. And then Greg Evenson, within, I think, 2 days, and this was separate and apart from me, he did not know that. A very short period of time, he gets a call from one of his general friends, and they call it yard farming, okay? Now, that's innocuous. Yard farming is basically when they send a Hellfire missile through my front door, and the Lord rebuke them, and may all their attempts fail, and may the entire command and communication system for every drone in America that will be used against American people fail. And I in the name of the living God, may all their communications fail with those things. But the bottom line, Alex, is that yard farming, now that sounds like, well, gee, that sounds innocuous. So, again, how is it that the very military now has, and now it becomes problematic because you just threw up on your screen, or told your guys to throw up on the screen, the general of the Russian Air Force or whatever, what is his name, Gordievsky or something like that. He's in Northcom's headquarters. They show a picture of him flying around in a private jet. And ladies and gentlemen, this is insane. We spend trillions of dollars to, quote, arm for the eventuality of Armageddon, either against Russia or China or whoever. And now all of our enemies are here. And
who would have ever believed that they would publicly admit they run al-Qaeda and give them weapons and 10,000 missiles in Libya and now Syria? I mean, it is reaching Fruit Loop level.
It is. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to, again, Alex, there's one thing on my website that I want everybody to go and take a look at. It's critical. It's a prophetic word from a guy named Marcus that Greg Evenson put up, and it's on my Q alerts, and I think it'll blow people's mind. It's a blueprint for what's going to happen the next 4 weeks.
Now, we've been close to crises before, and I agree there's a lot of stuff lined up, a lot of sources. Police are being told big stuff's going to happen. But, you know, there have been evidence of things going to happen in the past that didn't happen. And I believe talking about this does help reduce the fact that it, you know, could take place. I mean, I think a false flag, a financial collapse, that is probable, unless we get the word out. I mean, my goodness. I mean, how would it work? A false flag goes off. They say domestic groups did it. Oh, don't worry, the foreign troops are going to help. I mean, I know that's in all the declassified admissions now. Since NLE 09, they've admitted it. I've talked to Army officers on air where they're trained to work with foreign troops. I've been to urban warfare drills where they train with troops from 6 nations to take on the West Coast and confiscate guns and put us in camps. It's in my film, Police State 2000, free online. So, yes, I mean, I know it, but still, I just don't. People are so mind-controlled, though, they might tell, you know, the general public that if you're not for the foreign occupation, you're a terrorist, and your neighbors might rat you out.
Oh, of course. Neighbors are ratting out each other right now. Look at Jason, the first guy that was arrested because somebody heard him on talk radio. Jason was a talk show host. I think you carried this story.
No, we've had him on the show. He had a popular show. He came and got arrested. Yeah. We have the Rob fella, Brandon Robb.
Yeah, and then the other guy, there's another guy named Don M. He's the one I posted that I think you linked to. The bottom line is here's what I want to share with you, Alex Jones, okay? And this is a good word. You are so on the tip of the spear, but remember this, like an icebreaker, it's the bow of the ship that has to break the ice so the others can follow. But again, the hardest thing, and Alex, I got to admit, this is the hardest thing for me too, so I'm just saying someone who does what you do, this is the hardest thing for me, to understand that the very military that have taken the oath to defend our nation against all enemies, foreign, domestic, are now, the ones that are left, are now in collusion with the invading invading armies that are here. And by the way, I said 4 weeks. So the prophecy that's on my website, Amazing Prophetic Word of the Lord from Brother Marcus. The bottom line is this guy's got something that's real. It's not the typical flaky stuff, and there's so much stuff on the internet. But what's amazing to me is it lays out the next 3 months. I said 4 weeks, 3 months. It also deals with the next 4 weeks. And I would encourage everybody to go to that.
Well, I think God is moving everybody who has discernment that we're at a key point here, and that we're all in great danger because of the financial situation, the Iran situation, the funding of Al-Qaeda, the 10,000 Libyan missiles they got, and the government arming against us and demonizing us. I just find it hard to believe that they're going to actually pull the trigger.
Well, I know you did, but again, can I be blunt? There was a lot of stuff. For instance, Genetic Armageddon, you brought it up, and I know we're coming out on that. When I wrote Genetic Armageddon about the transhumanists and the desire for them to totally destroy the image and likeness of the living God as we were created, and I started talking about, obviously, super soldiers. Everybody's, the boards were filled. Ha ha, what a joke, what a crazy guy. The bottom line is... Now
it's all admitted. It's all been admitted.
It's all admitted. So what I'm trying to tell you is this, is that when Greg and I did the show last night with Doug Hagman, and as I'm doing the show with you and you had on Doug the hour before I came on, the bottom line is the tension and the panic in law enforcement, in the intelligence community, and guys going out into fields, not me. I don't meet anybody, any place, anytime. That's just my own security protocol. I violated it once and it almost cost me my life. The bottom line is that given the fact of everything, the preponderance of evidence, Alex, it's not only the scales that have to come off a man's eyes, it's the scales that have to come off our heart. These are the issues. We're trying to resolve probably the most confrontational, dangerous period in history with the emotional base that we have that, quite candidly, isn't prepared for the shock. This is going to be shock and awe, and I told everybody, you heard me say it on your show years ago, everything that's going on in the Middle East is designed to train. They're going to use those tactics against us.
Well, that's all admitted. I just don't see them phase one in a collapse, bringing in the foreign troops. From what I've studied, they would bring in the collapse, then stage false flags, blame it on domestic groups, let the police and military be chewed up in a fight with the people, then they bring in the I-4 NATO forces, and that's on record. No matter how crazy it sounds, that is the plan. We'll be back.
Of everything that stands the end.
No safety.
No safety or surprise the end.
I'll never
look into your eyes
again. Listen, folks, we can disagree about timelines. It's mainstream news. They train with troops from 15 nations to take on domestic terrorists who they say are our veterans and gun owners. That's high treason. It is public that they're arming with all these weapons against us. It's public they're setting up face scanning. So I'm hearing Steve Quayle, and he's talking about all this evidence and stuff. He's been talking about it forever, and then I'm hoping he's wrong. I think we can disagree on timelines, but definitely stuff's getting weird. And I hope that he's wrong. I hope that none of this unfolds. But I know he wouldn't be out here saying all this if he in his heart didn't think things were being green-lighted for this. I just know I talked to a billionaire lady off record, owns a defense contractor company. 4 years ago, I've told you the story, and she said, I'm moving to the Cook Islands. And I said, why? Because of collapse. She said, the United States won't be here. And I just happened to run into her in a lawyer's office. I was there filing some stuff at the big law firm in town. She's got like 50 lawyers, and she was a listener. And then I went and checked who she was after, and was like, wow, that really is who she said. I was like, why'd you tell me that? I wish I would have asked more, though. This is crazy. This is like before World War I or World War II. Everything's lining up for that. So I don't know what's going to happen in the details, but Steve, I hope you're wrong. But you've got, Hagman sources. I've got police calling and crying. Later confirmed with other high-level police. They're told what's going to break loose. I mean, what are your sources saying? How will this start if indeed they pull the trigger?
Alex, they all say it started or you wouldn't have seen it implemented. But when it really gets bad is on the financial collapse. I got to spell it out to you. Imagine everybody in the United States not being able to access their bank accounts, access their credit cards, access their ATM machines. Imagine the trucks stopping. Imagine the people who are used to government subsidies being stopped. And it's going to be across the board. This is going to be affecting everyone. And then imagine that the gangs and you and I talked about this 10 years ago, the gangs that have been given the guns, and oh, by the way, I was a crazy when I was talking about all the Chinese arms being shipped into the gangs on the West Coast.
You said it before. It was even in the LA Times, and I know, I wish I could think that you were crazy. You said that the government was arming gangs nationwide, and now that's admitted.
Right. So the point is that here's the thing. The interesting issue that everybody's got to come to grips with and really has to come to grips with is, look, I don't know the timing, and I will agree with you on one thing. In the world of special operations, when an operation is made known, everybody cuts contact with that operation. But the bottom line is that we have the U.S. complicit, and I'm talking about the military establishment right now, with the implementation of martial law, the roundups, the assassinations, everything else. But what they are not getting, look, I was the source, and I think this is what you've got to do and I've got to do. If I've been right, and if my sources have been unfailing, and the ultimate source has been God calling me to be a watchman and proclaiming, because God says his people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, and I don't care what a person's position is, they can't argue. Look, 15 years ago, I was telling people this stuff is happening. Now a lot of people are writing books on it and everything. I don't care about that, but what I'm saying is, if it's taken people 15 years to get where I was 15 years ago, I'm trying to tell people what comes next, but the total financial collapse coordinated with an attack on Washington, D.C. and several other major cities, the potential for an EMP attack.
Okay, well, I want to hear the chain of events. Stay there. Let's do 5 more minutes so you can finish up with Steve Quayle, Infowars.com, SteveQuayle.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is Wednesday, 29th day of August 2012, and we got foreign troops crawling all over us, government buying billions of rounds of ammo, giant black tanks, armored vehicles. They're on the news saying, look out, the gun owners and veterans are terrorists. They're the enemy. They're going to attack any minute. I mean, it's just total bizarreness. We've got judges out in places, in Texas saying they're going to fight the New World Order. I mean, it's entering just crazy land. And I wish it wasn't all happening. We've got all these different sources saying get ready for all Hades to break loose in September. We got about 5 minutes left. Steve, lay out from your sources how this would unfold. Cyber attack, things go down, riots, and then what, we beg for the troops? I mean, what happens?
Well, they want a 2 to 4 week period where everybody turns loose on everybody. By the way, Alex, concurrent with this, the internet goes down, all communications go dead, except the military communications and their high rack and all their new trunk system. And by the way, they know every single police officer, his allegiance, his alliance, and his stuff. So let's say a police force has 100 officers, and 5 of them are considered, they're not team players. In other words, they won't go along with the New World Order. The 5 will be locked out of the trunk communication system. Everything's digital. 95 people get the order. The 5 guys will be set up for the other 95. The blue list goes into effect. That's when the foreign troops have their pre-assigned targets to assassinate. By the way, let me tell you something. When I started talking about GPSing the front doors for Hellfire missiles, a former helicopter gunship pilot called me and he said, Steve, he said, we have sealed orders and we have all our targets assigned to us in the areas that will be dispatched from. So understand, Alex.
Well, pilots have complained that they've been ordered to go around and practice attacking U.S. cities, not just for foreign targeting. They're practicing for U.S. cities.
Well, our U.S. individuals, and I mean, you said the other day, I think, when we were on your TV show that you had, you saw a drone over you. And the point is, here's what I'm trying to get across to everybody, okay? If what's obvious, now look, what's obvious, everybody's hoping, and this is where hope is good, but misplaced hope was maddening. What will make a difference? Here's what will make a difference. If every man, woman, and fighting person in the military and in in the police departments understands. That's why I spend the time I do. That's why you spend.
And you're already on a list if you're a patriot. They already know. Yep. So speak out now and pray and let everybody know that there is a takeover happening. Because no one can deny the takeover's here. The question is, how severe is it?
Well, can I tell you something? It's terminally severe. You, Alex Jones, cannot interview Graithwall from the Weather Underground days and then see all of those same people now coming into play, the mentors of the current administration and all of Obama's hierarchy. You cannot have a nation of law. Listen, the man of perdition, the Bible talks about, is lawlessness. And lawlessness is defined as each man doing that's what's right in his own sight. And now you've got people saying that, look, the Constitution's irrelevant, the Bill of Rights is irrelevant, and to the degree that our founding fathers said it's designed for a moral people and the people lose their morality, that's why the effective communist protocols and globalist mind speak and mind control. By the way, concurrent with all this going down, getting back to your question, that's when they turn on the Gwen towers, okay? The electromagnetic, if you will, numbing and dumbing down the mind control.
So that's their, well, they admitted in the major paper, it was the Baltimore Sun, 12 years ago, they bragged the CIA and DARPA had set up with the towers systems that can manipulate our minds and calm us. That was in the newspaper.
Absolutely. Under 4 hertz, you go to sleep. Over 6 hertz, you go agitated. And that's where, and please, everybody, this is not a pitch, but you've got to read my zombie series on my website. This is, Alex, when they articulate, when they integrate the radio frequency, when they turn on the power to basically energize a lot of the stuff that's been put into the chemtrail spraying. I mean, they're not only talking about zombie protocols, they're talking about generating the zombie apocalypse.
And by that, you're talking about a bunch of people out of their minds running around crazy.
Yes.
They can do that spraying PCP on people, too. Amazing. Steve Quayle, we got to talk more as this unfolds. His website, stevequayle.com. I'm Alex Jones of Infowars.com. Retransmission starts now. See you on the Nightly News, 7 o'clock Central, prisonplanet.tv. Stay with us.
All right, here's the boil down. The most important takeaways from this presentation thus far. First, the sequence of events for the near term. The feds will orchestrate some kind of uber false flag attack and blame it on us. What constitutes us was defined in the first clip by Doug Hagman. The remnant is us. Okay, immediately upon the heels of this false flag event, they will unleash the legions of foreign military murder squads to begin servicing their targets. Yeah, they've already got all the important figures in this movement marked with GPS coordinates as to their locations, and they're going to begin raiding them in the dead of night. What do you think the last census was all about? It was all about finding out where we live. They're going to attempt to take out our Tier 1 leadership in one massive coast-to-coast assault. If they are successful in this operation, it will leave this movement with no rudder. We'll be left with the kinds of folks that call into the Alex Jones Show every fucking day with their good idea fairy suggestions like, "Oh, Alex, I have this great idea as to what you can do to wake up more people." It's always what Alex can do, not what they can do. Listen up, fools. You better get out of this mindset that somebody else is going to do your dirty work for you. There are no white knights coming in to set this right. Drake is a fraud. The only person who you can depend upon to do the dirty work is you. Get your mind right. There will be no peaceful way out of this. They're going to attack. Prepare for it. I am ramping up my readiness now. I'm preparing to go mobile. I can no longer afford to be tethered to one piece of dirt on this planet. I suggest all of you people out there who are voices in this movement do the same. Become nomads. Don't let them know where to go to send the SWAT teams. We've got to become sharks now. The shark survives only so long as it keeps moving and changing locations. Becoming ghosts. That is the ethos of the guerrilla. Strike, hound, and harass the enemy where he is weak, fade away and disappear where he is strong, while constantly growing the boots-on-the-ground resistance forces into larger and larger formations that will someday be able to go toe-to-toe in full force-on-force engagements with the state's military and police. That is the spectrum of development for the guerrilla forces, to transition from ragtag bands of insurgents into bona fide infantry units capable of taking ground and keeping it. Before we can go after the culprits of orchestrating this Holocaust, We first have to destroy and neutralize their protective rings of paid killers. This is the reality we face in Phase 2 and 3. This won't be a walk in the park. Get your mind right. We've entered into uncharted waters. Stations, everyone. Okay? Prepare to repel hostile borders because they're coming. Either they're going down or we are. The peaceniks have failed. Of course, that has been a foregone conclusion. You can't reason or negotiate with what amounts to human crocodiles. You love and light frauds need to get the fuck out of the way now and go hide up the goddess's skirt. It's going to be up to the steely-eyed killers now to set this straight. Be ready to counterstrike. Let them throw the first punch. But once they do, there can be no hesitation. The response must be overwhelming and violently decisive. Quit being gutless jellyfish. We're in a wartime resistance posture now. Start acting like it. You better start watching your six now very closely. They're coming for all of us. This is the war. It's here now. Don't let humanity down. The future of the species will be decided right now, right here for the next 1,000 years to come. We have but two choices left. Liberty or oblivion. Well, my steel is for libertas. Okay? And that's all I've got for now. Via con Dios, Crusaders, out here.
Damn it, I wish they'd just stop. They've got enough power now. But it's the sick stuff they come out with. The United Nations, we got to reduce world population by 80%. That's just how they want us. They want us serfs out there. Oh, you know, like your serfs over in Britain, my people that left to get away with it, eating little turnips and little onions they grew, and had like a foot and a half shorter than the noblemen, with their teeth hanging out as they ride by on their horse. Oh, look at them, we're much better than them. That's their pleasure. Oh, their pleasure. Well, I'm not going to give them their pleasure. I'm going to cram a gun in their mouth and see how they like it. Because I'm free. That's been in my family history to fight. And I'm not your slave. So get it straight. And we're ready. You can nerve gas us all day. We're ready to rock. And the people are waking up. Because some of us are willing to spill our blood with a sacrifice. You hear me, scum? We're coming for you.